Welcome! We're on lesson 10 for module 4. And what we're looking at today is actually going to start involving some kind of algebraic kinds of things for you to take a look at. So I'm going to start with this very first one. I've even already circled it so I wouldn't forget. Write expressions to match these diagrams and then evaluate them. So this time what we're looking at here is your tape diagram. And the total of what that happens to be worth is the same as 17 plus 4. And then we've got to figure out what is, according to this, what is 1/4 of that? So the way we write that in algebra is we want to do this first. 17 plus 4. The way we make sure that people know that's what you got to do first is put parentheses around it. And then we want to figure out what 1/4 of that is. And so a couple different ways of writing that is 1/4, remember, of. But that's kind of a magic thing about algebraic method when you're doing parentheses is that you don't need to put the multiplication sign in there. What you can do, because it's parentheses, is if there's a number that's right next to the parentheses, it means that you're going to multiply the outside by the inside. So when we work this out, we can think 17 plus 4 happens to be 21. And we're multiplying it, so I'm going to make it into a fraction. And it's 1/4 times that. So 1 times 21 is 21. 1 times 4 is 4. And so when we read this out loud upside down, remember how we did it as a division problem from top to bottom. So this is 21 divided by, so there's like 2 words that go along with that. Divided by, what are we dividing by? 4, because it's right there. Now I know that if I go times 5, it's going to get me a 20. There's 1 left over, so 5 and 1/4 is what each one of these, 5 and 1/4, is what each one of these squares, each one of these fourths, happens to be worth. And if I look at the problem, it's only asking me for what 1/4 of it is, so that's our answer. Now we take a look at this one right here, and we want to figure out the whole amount. And so what we say then is that 2 of them happen to be worth this much. So if we take that much, we're going to go combine them. 4/7 plus 8/3. That's what 2 of them are worth. But we want to know twice that much. So we're going to multiply times 2 in the end. So if we do that, we go 8, well, guess what? 7ths, 3rds, we can't add these yet, can we? So the easy way to think about it, I know that if I go 2 times 7, I've got 14. 3 times nothing will get you 14. So if I go 3 times 7, I know I've got 21. So I'm just going to go with that. They're both going to become 21. 7 times 3, 4 times 3, 12. 3 times 7, 8 times 7, 56. And what are we doing? We're combining them. And then we're still going to multiply them by 2, remember? So we can't lose that. So now let's think about that. 6 plus 2, 8. 5 plus 1, 6. Denominator stays the same, 21. And now we have to say times 2. So I know that 2 times 60 is 120. I know that 2 times 8 is 16. So we're going to add another 10 from that 16. So the 120 becomes 130. And then 8 times 2 ended in a 6 over 21. And then that division situation. This is 136 divided by 21. And we can do that. There's some room up here. So we're going to say 136 divided by 21. And if you think about that, let's see, I know that 2 times 6, 20 times 6 would get me 120. So let's try that. We're going to say times 6. 6 times 1, 6. 6 times 2, 12. 126, 136, there's 10 different. So it's 6 and 10 21sts. That's how much, in this case, that each one of these happens to be worth then. Let's see if that's true. So, let's see. That's how much, because we said times 2. So that's how much that all 4 of them must all together be worth, right? 6 and 10 21st. So we know that 2 of them are worth that much. And so when we combine them and then we say that there's 4 of them, this is what it comes to. All right, now let's cruise on down to the next red one. And here's the directions. Write an expression to match and then evaluate it. So this one says right here 7 copies. So we're probably multiplying 7 copies of it. Of the sum of 8/5 and 4. So we know we're adding. Here's your 8/5. And what are we adding to that? We're adding 4. We can just make it 4/1 to start with. And we're going to have 7 copies of that. So we're multiplying this that we end up with in the fraction, or in the parentheses, we're going to multiply it by 7. So we know that what we could do is just use 5, right? Because 5 times 1 would get us there. So these are both going to have a denominator of 5. This one's going to have a denominator of 5. I know 5 times 1 is 5, 8 times 1 is 8. That one's not changing. 1 times 5 is 5. 4 times 5 is 20. So this is going to become, and don't forget your 7 over here, just so we don't forget. We know that this is going to become 28/5. What are we multiplying by? Times 7. That's a 1. That's a 1, right? Okay. So now it's going to be going 7 times 28. So we can just kind of work that one out off to the side here because it's a fairly big multiplication you're doing. 7 times 8, 56. 2 times 7, 14. 14 plus 5, 19. So 196 divided by 5. 196 divided by 5. I know 3 times 5 will get me 15. That's going to be 46 then. And I know that 9 times 5 is 45. What's the difference between 45 and 46? 1. So 39 and 1/5 is what we get for an answer in that case. Now let's take a look at these. This one's asking us to figure out without calculating. It's asking us to mental math this. So in this case, what we've got here is 2/3 times a whole number, and we've got 2/3 times a whole number. So we're going to add it to itself 15 times. What is 9 plus 12? Isn't that 21? So we're going to add 2/3 times it by itself 21 times over. So this is going to get bigger than this. Now when we take a look at this one, here we have in the parentheses 3 times 5/4. Here we have 3 times 5/4. And we're saying it's going to be times 3/5, which I know that this is smaller. As far as, well, sorry, what am I saying? It's smaller. 3 out of 5. 3 is almost closer to 5, right? Because it's more than half of it. So here's my mistake. I was thinking, oh, 8 is a bigger denominator. Yeah, that means it's smaller because 3 is less than half of 8. So this, if you multiply it by this fraction, it means they're coming into smaller parts and pieces than on this side. Let's go ahead and real quick, we'll take a look at this one too while we're here. So in this case, we know that we're taking a whole number and we're going to be multiplying it by that which is out here. So we're going to have 6 sets of 2's, and we're going to have 6 sets of 32/16. 16 goes into 32 twice, right? So this is like saying then it's actually 2 of them. 2 plus 2 is 4. So this is 6 times 4. Now let's look at this one over here. This is 6 times 2. And then we just add 2 to it also. So 6 times 2 is 12, plus 2 more is 14. That's meaning this one is going to be bigger. Okay? All right, we're at that 10, 11 minute mark. Here's your homework. What I would like for you to do tonight, just do number 1. Do number 1, A and B. And it's asking you to rewrite these expressions using words. So do you remember those ones down there that gave you the words? These ones, it would say 7 times as much as the sum of 1/3 and 4/5. 2/3 of the product means that you're multiplying these two. So use these as examples. What you're doing is you're turning these into those sentences. Okay? It's a challenge. See you tomorrow.